Today we are in conversation with conductor Julia Zavadsky. Julia studied music theory, conducting, and composition at the Glier Music College in Kiev, Ukraine, and then at the Rubin Academy of Music in Jerusalem. She received a master's degree in choral conducting at Temple University and a doctorate in conducting at SUNY Stony Brook. She is currently artistic director of Nashirah, the Jewish Chorale of Greater Philadelphia, the Rutgers University Singers, and the Singing Hearts Choral Society of Southern New Jersey. Zavadsky has served on the faculty of Temple University, Rutgers University, and the Curtis Institute of Music. But before we get to the conversation, let's listen to a virtual choir video that the choir made recently. We are here with Julia Zavadsky, coming to us from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She is the conductor of
Nashirah, the Jewish Chorale of Greater Philadelphia.
Great. And we're going to discuss her part in the many voices of women in Jewish music. So, Julia, I'd like to start with what got you interested in choral music and then specifically in Jewish choral music?
I grew up in Kiev, Ukraine, and I had no interest in Jewish music because I had no idea about Jewish music. The only Jewish music that I was lucky to hear is from my grandfather, my grandfather was a son of a cantor. And even though he became a very active communist, at home, he would always play on the piano and play songs in Yiddish from his childhood. So that was my introduction to Jewish music and the only relationship with Jewish music that I had. There was absolutely nothing else. And I like to travel. And the only way to travel then back in Russia when everything was closed was to sing in the choir. My parents were musicians, so I studied in music school since I was 5 years old. And we all had our music subject as solfege and theory and history and so on. And choir was one of them. And I joined the choir. And then I started traveling with the choir, and choir became kind of a huge part of it became my community.
Was this a
And
college choir or conservatory?
well, I was still a child then, so it
Ah,
was I'm just translating in my head. It's a head house of pioneers, right? We were all pioneers in Russia. with the red ties. And so there was a palace, it's called Palace of Pioneers. And there was a choir that was attached to this palace. And that's where I sang. And we traveled, first of all around USSR and recording and television. And then we were traveling to, well, other countries. There were Poland, there were Czechoslovakia, I mean, our neighboring friendly countries. When there was time to travel to Vienna, for example, I wasn't allowed. So the Jews were not allowed to go because of the fear that we will run away, even though I was a child, and but still, so I got rejected from that trip, for example. And but anyway, choirs, I mean, that was my way of living.
But at a certain point, you decided to make it your career.
Yes, so I really wanted to be a musician, and choirs is the main thing that I knew, and I really wanted to conduct. My father is a conductor, and I really was looking up to creating the, how does the every line work, and I was extremely taken by the field, and so I needed to get into college. I was 15, and I remember filling out an application, and I remember that my father watched me filling out the application, and when I got to my nationality, which is actually the religion, he whispered to me to write Russian, and I did. And that was a lie that I put on my application. Um, we also changed our last name right before we filled out application. So I was born with a last name Wexler, but as it got close to me going to college, my parents did some kind of arrangement with the government, and we changed our last name to the maiden name of my grandmother, that was Lamazov. And even though she was Jewish, that last name was sounding more Russian than Wexler. So I was accepted into college with the last name Lamazov. And I went to study conducting when I was 15. So 4 years in college, I studied conducting. It was a wonderful education. I have to tell you, most of conductors were women. There were 2 men. There were 16 of us in the studio. There were 2 men, and the rest were women. The head of the department was a woman. I'm bringing this up because I know we will be talking about this topic, living in America, and it's so different in America. So with all the horrible things that we can talk about living in Russia, I don't think that was one of the shortcomings. I don't think as a woman I suffered being given less opportunities as a conductor than a man.
So let's get to that now. So in school, you said there were more women than men in the program. So you felt no discrimination as a woman. What about when
No.
you entered the profession, and what about when you came to the US? Did that change?
Yes, so I actually, the moment I graduated from school, from college in Kiev, I immigrated to Israel, and I went to study in Jerusalem with Aaron Harlap. And I mean, we struck a wonderful friendship, and we're such good friends until today. And he was and is a mentor. And in Israel, I think the role of the women is definitely damaged. I don't think it's as bad as it is here, but I did feel, and you feel it, obviously, it's all coming from religion also. It's all coming from the synagogue. It's all coming, it's all so much connected. You can't really disconnect, I have to cook, not conduct, That's so my years in Israel were completely taken by school. All the years I was in Israel, I was in school. And I was conducting choirs through all these years, and I was doing really well. I mean, they were really happy years. I learned, that was my first time learning about Jewish music. Not Jewish religious music. It was mostly Israeli pop music, about Israeli composers, about Russian composers whose music were so much became part of Israeli culture. I mean, so I still did not learn about Jewish sacred music at that point. I did not sing Rossi. I did not, even with Aaron, we worked on his works, but we never actually looked at, I think, sacred music. I have no recollection whatsoever.
But we don't have to limit Jewish music by only looking at sacred music. So actually that brings me to my next question. With your wonderful choir, Nashirah, how do you define Jewish music, or what kind of program do you do with the choir?
I'm very lucky with Nashirah because they give me really a wide palette of choices that I can make, and the definition is as broad as I want to make it. Yes, obviously they all love to sing a Jewish sacred music and early music, but if I bring Bernstein, if I bring music theater, they will love to do that as well, and they will not say no. So the range is really, really wide. Pop music, I brought Nurit Hirsch. I mean, anything. I arrange music sometimes, and I do that. So as long as what I'm looking at is the quality of the piece, I mean, that's what drives me. I love to do music of immigrants, for example, because we all are. It's in some parts. So what we are all bringing to the table, I think, is amazing. Yeah, that's why I love this country, actually, because this country is like Jewish music. It's like, everyone, and we all bring it together. And ideally, it would be such a wonderful union if, we would have right politicians. But that's how I look at Jewish music,
Yes.
as well. And that's why you can't not kind of be so excited about it.
Have you thought about the percentage of your repertoire that is by women composers? Do you make any effort to program music by women?
I do. Not just by women, but especially by living composers right now. I like to encourage new work. And for example, here we have Andrea Clearfield, who is a Philadelphia composer who, we commissioned work, and we're part of her salon every year. And um, we love working with her, for example. Also, of course, Israeli women composers, right? I mentioned Nurit Hirsch, but of course there is Naomi Shemer. I mean, there is, yes. I do make an effort. It's harder to make an effort if I want to do an early music concert, for example. But I'm sure I will. I invited someone to do a lecture soon on Sarah Levy
Mm-hmm.
and Mendelssohn. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I really would like to learn more. And I hope it will help me open some gates into that world. I think the Jewish Americans just so lucky to have you here. I just don't know who has such a grasp on this culture, the music culture of Jewish people, as well as you are. I love performing your arrangements. We're going to be doing, by the way, again, this is our next, I forgot to tell you, the virtual performance we're doing next is Adio Querida, and we're doing it with the tango duet from Buenos Aires. So that will be in December, for that December date as well. I will send you. It's a wonderful arrangement, and we already performed it before.
Good.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about Nashirah, your choir, the membership, the goals, repertoire, what kind of performances you do.
Nashirah was created 18 years ago. We were supposed to have the 18-year celebration this year. It was created by a few members of Adas Jeshurun Synagogue in Elkins Park, which is a very much Jewish suburb of Philadelphia. And few members of the synagogue really wanted to sing good Jewish music, and they were sincerely interested, and they applied for grants, and they got some money, and it was about 12 singers ensemble in the beginning that was conducted by Rob Ross in the beginning. And then conductors changed, and eventually the choir got to Jonathan Cooper Smith, who've done fantastic work with them. And the main performance venues are not specifically Jewish venues. Yes, we do perform in the synagogues here and there, but especially my focus is mainly to perform outside of the Jewish audiences, because I strongly believe that I can manipulate in a good way. I mean, the perception of the Jewish music in a general choral community. I think we have a in Philadelphia, there is really rich Jewish community with Mendelssohn Club Chorus and choral arts. I mean, the Crossing. I mean, they're amazing choirs, and they have no idea about Jewish music and also a fear of it. And I've decided that I'm gonna make it my goal to change that. So I built every year with at least 2 collaborations with one of these ensembles. So we do a concert together where we sing together. I conduct their chorus, their conductor conducts mine. We learn each other's music. We talk about each other's music, and choir members talk to each other. And I feel like this is the biggest kind of mitzvah that I can make right now for as being conductor of Nashirah. I feel that it really affects our community here, because now we grew our audience, and it doesn't just consist of just the members of the synagogue. Now it consists just of people who like choral music, whoever they are and from wherever they are. And
I'd like to go back to what we were talking about before, perhaps from a different angle. Do you feel that as a woman, you have an approach to music that is any different from your male colleagues?
I would be afraid to say yes, because I know of number of the male colleagues. I think it's not just because I'm a woman. It's a combination of all those things that I mentioned. It's because I'm a woman, an immigrant who sat in the bomb shelters and been targeted. And I mean, I think all of it, I think makes it different, not just because I'm a woman. So it's hard for me to just to take it separately.
Sure, that's just a portion
it's a combination.
Of who you are.
Yeah. I think if I would be born American, I think I would have an easier time to answer this. But I have a very convoluted kind of idea. About it's a combination of so many things.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't give you a more precise answer, but it's really hard for me. Yeah.
You did.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, one more topic. In this time of COVID, choral singing has been designated a super spreader. So just about all of us have had to put a hold on rehearsals and performances. So just tell us what you and your chorus are doing during this difficult year.
Yes, it's a wonderful topic, because we're on the survival right now schedule, which means we're trying to preserve our community. This is number one. I think if I would really to put a number one, we're trying to preserve people's mental state, the feeling of that no one is alone. And obviously, as a choir, the whole idea of singing together is a huge part of it. Now, who better knows than you that singing together is not exactly what we call our Zoom session. But even though I think there are ways to find a silver lining in it. So, for example, the things that I couldn't afford to be doing just because I was so thirsty for time always, like, for example, working on sight singing and sight reading. That's what I do every week, bringing wonderful lectures and performers. That's what I can do right now as well. Attract audiences from around the world, people that are listening in to the things that we're doing, is the new thing that I never thought I would be able to do. Inviting performance from around the world to take part, um, I mean, in our events is wonderful. Nashirah choir members are Nashirah is very important to them. This is like it was for me in childhood. This is their way of living. They're extremely they are connected to Nashirah in a lot of deep and meaningful ways. So I actually gained members through this pandemic instead of losing members, because there are a number of people that, for example, were not available to come to rehearsals on Sundays last year, and now when it's with the press of the button, so they could rejoin. So my numbers are actually up, but as we were talking before, the thirst for the human connection is there. And I'm racking my brain and thinking of maybe, I know of some choirs that doing combination of small ensemble live and Zoom session at the same time. So we are considering this right now. We're considering having maybe 8 people live spread out in the big space while I'm still on Zoom with the rest of the choir, and rotating the people that are coming live at all times. We're just talking about it, but I'm just trying to explain to you that it's all wonderful, but we want to be together. We want to sing together. I had my accompanist here during the last rehearsal in my home. And so we were singing duets. When we were working with the choir, we could actually sing together to support. For example, when we were working with women, so we could sing soprano and alto together. And just me and her singing together, both of us looked at each other and we both caught ourselves with tears in our eyes. It's just 2 of us that we didn't realize that we didn't sing with anyone since March. And just that feeling was so overwhelming. We stopped in the middle and we shared with the choir that, yeah, we are mourning, and we'll get back together and we'll get through this. And we have to be creative. We have to be creative.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Julia?
I hope that I can invest at least a small percentage into Philadelphia community as far as the Jewish music representative as you did in Boston and in this country and around the world. So that is my hope, to give at least a small token into my community. And that's why I'm always so excited to learn from you. And yeah, I'm so glad that you're okay with supporting me with your knowledge and just friendship.
Absolutely. And you do wonderful work.
Thank
You,
you. Thank you. I really am grateful for you thinking of me. Thank you so much. It's really, I'm honored to be part of this.
it's been great talking with you, Julia.
Likewise. Thank
Okay.
you so much.